Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Cattle, Season 6, Episode 3. Or is that the German 3? 3. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our very special guest for this episode, back on the podcast, we don't do this often, is Charlotte Langley, CEO and president of Langley Foods, co-founder of Scout, Bespoke Tin Seafood, startup consultant who is doing and talking at the same time. She's taking her own advice. She's showing, not just talking about how to do it. She's just launched Nice Cans, a bespoke tuna line of canned foods. We're going to hear all about that. Such enthusiasm. She is a force of nature. And she's changing, and you hear in the interview, entire industries as a small indie. Lots of great insights and lessons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always great to have. Charlotte is great, and I think in the last 6 years we've had maybe a few people from Newfoundland. So it's nice to always hear from the Rock. Charlotte has a lot of energy, very inspirational, and so it was great to have her back.
And for the listeners, you'll hear a bit of your sound isn't great because I effed up. I included your DAL email on the calendar invite, and of course, you don't get your DAL email yet.
That's right.
So the sound is not great from you, so that's my fault, but also DAL's fault. What's going on with the DAL lockout?
Well, you didn't get the invite, and all of a sudden you text me, "Where are you? We're waiting for you." Oh my God, I was actually on the highway, had to pull over, went into a Tim Hortons to get Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And the show must go on. So I was able to actually join you and Charlotte for the interview, but that is the worst thing. I mean, I understand why there's a lockout. I can appreciate that there's a dispute here between the Dalhousie Faculty Association and Dalhousie itself, but basically not to disable all functions related to our email, no auto reply, no forwarding. Like, you wouldn't know that I didn't get the email, and I wouldn't get the email. And so it's just the worst policy, to be honest. It was designed to piss people off, and I'm pissed. It's been 3 weeks.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, Ed McMahon may have already sent you an email. You may already be a millionaire. You may already be a rich
But
professor.
I tell you what, Michael.
You don't know.
But I tell you what, Michael, even if I'm a gazillionaire, I'd still do the podcast with you.
What a professional.
Absolutely.
What a professional. Huh? What commitment. Where else can you have this much fun for spending this kind of money? All right, let's dive into the news. Back into the news, temporary foreign worker program is back in the news in advance of what I think is a November annual goal reset objective statement. Our federal opposition leader, Mr. Poilievre, is out in front and calling for the elimination of the program. Restaurants Canada jumped on that real quick and loud. And now, what was interesting, I think a bunch of interesting things. We can talk about the program. It's not the first time we've talked about the program, but I found it interesting how quick suggestion from the opposition. This isn't the federal government saying this, though they are in that consultation period, because I think November is when, as I said, when they release some stuff. But boy, it ignited a lot of conversation with one statement from the opposition leader, not the leader of the government. And so I thought that there's clearly a lot of interest and energy around it. Like, let's jump on this real quick, no matter who says it. So why don't you walk us through, bring it down for us, because I feel it's like a segmented question. It's a very different perspective if you're a quick service operator, a restaurateur, or you're picking, lettuce, or not lettuce, but if you're picking, asparagus in a field for the agribusiness, or you're processing proteins. So segmented, how important is it? And what are your thoughts on where this program needs to go? And then we'll talk about what Canadians are thinking. And Carney Prime Minister just made a statement about it.
Well, I mean, just before we actually talk about what just happened last week, we should perhaps go back in time. I mean, during the election, even before the election, there was some work done by the Liberals. There were suggestions, and so the Liberals did recognize that the program needed a fix for sure. Of course, for a variety of different reasons, and I think the biggest reason is the fact that a lot of students, a lot of youth, people under the age of 25 are having a hard time finding jobs because there are a lot.
Record unemployment numbers in this country. And the record number overall is what, 7%. But if you look at youth unemployment, it's like 14%.
It's almost 15%. Yeah.
Did you hear that 40,000 people showed up to apply for a part-time short-term gig at the CNE this summer? Something's wrong here. There's clearly something wrong.
Every time I go on LinkedIn to post a RA position, I get over 300 applicants for one contract. So I see it myself. I mean, we have a huge problem right now. So in the spring, there was some noise around the temporary foreign workers program. And I think that there is a bit of a clash between what parties are proposing versus what industry wants, particularly food service. I think food service is now addicted to this heroin called the temporary foreign worker program. Basically, they actually can recruit a lot of people, pay them low wages, and increase profits, essentially. And it's been working.
They would say that it's true that in some cities I have no problem. I don't need the program. But if I'm in Halifax, Saskatchewan, I just can't get people to work. What do you make of that argument? I mean, there's, if we think about dividing this and segmenting it by sector, but also by geography, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, now you could argue that many Canadians, people living here, won't be interested in jobs like that, but with current salaries, of course. And so you would probably have to increase salaries, and therefore you have to kind of assess whether or not some business models are going to work with higher wages. And that's really the key here for food service. Now, with agriculture, I think both plans, both Liberals and Conservatives, are recognizing that agriculture and agri-food up the food chain in processing and in agriculture, that program is absolutely critical. So I don't think anybody wants to touch that. But it's
long-standing and successful, I would say.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's needed, to be honest, because it's just a different ball game, different lifestyle. It's these jobs are remotely located. It's hard to recruit. And frankly, when you talk to farmers, they've done a pretty good job accommodating these foreign workers. I mean, we've heard horror stories in the news, but the majority of farmers actually treat foreign workers as family members, really. So I think that's kind of settled. Even the Conservatives have actually recognized that. But
he talked about the elimination of the program. Have they recognized that? Because he said eliminate the whole thing.
He took ownership of the issue in the last couple of weeks by saying, let's really end this because our youth needs to work. And and I think it's important to value these jobs because you and I were well into our careers, of course. But when you're starting a career, you want to understand how it works to have a boss, how to deal with people. And
economists call it attachment to the labor force. I mean, my first job, what was your first job?
It's kind of economic onboarding, if you will. That's kind of how I see it. And my first job was on a farm, and I was actually paying. It was during hay season. I worked on dairy farms and things like that. So, did you ever work in hospitality at all?
Hospitality adjacent. My first job was as a security guard at the Ottawa Civic Center for rock concerts for $2.56 an hour. But I got to see the show. So shout out, we should dedicate this episode to the founder of Supertramp. That was my first concert that I worked at and then sat and watched the show. So anyway.
Rick Davies. Yep.
We digress. But, if you've
Breakfast
got 40,
in America,
so epic. But if you got 40,000 people showing up for a CNE job that pays minimum wage for 2 weeks, clearly, I'm not sure I'm by entirely it's going to raise rates. Your assumption is they would take no job versus a minimum wage job. Is that your assumption in that?
That would be my assumption, yes. And so that's why I do think that both parties are willing to push the envelope and get the debate going. And hopefully Prime Minister Carney will remember that he's actually leading a minority government. He needs Parliament to work, So
he just said, by the way, breaking news, he just issued a release. We're recording this Wednesday afternoon. The temporary foreign worker program needs a focused approach that targets the needs of specific sectors and regions. Oh, okay. So it's basically what you and I were just saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so my concern about the conservatives' approach is that the change would be too drastic. To be honest, the, do they have a point? Yes, but did they actually announce the right thing to take ownership of the issue? Yes, but practically, when you think about food security, food affordability, it would be too much of a big change all at once. And I'm not sure. And I'm thinking about restaurant operators. I'm not sure they actually would survive. Now, you could argue we have too many restaurants, we have too many Tim Hortons and things
Not
like
enough
that.
technology. You could also argue not enough technology because, as we've talked about,
Exactly. So again,
mm-hmm,
you could
mm-hmm,
argue that for sure, but at the end of the day,
I
you
would.
don't want to be. I mean, you do have a sector addicted to this, and so uh, you want to go through a phase allowing them to adjust and adapt, and not just pull the plug and see how the market reacts. Because in the last 10 years, that's what we've seen, right?
Ditch to ditch,
Very
guardrail to guardrail, right?
and now we have this huge problem with youth and everything else. So I would take it slow, and frankly, I would agree with Prime Minister Carney on this one. I think it's important to actually look at different markets and and adopt
And
a
sectors, yeah.
targeted approach to this.
Well, the one thing about our federal opposition, he's in line with what Canadians are thinking. Recent study just conducted August 30th to September 3rd from the Nanos research team said 45% of Canadians supported, 26% somewhat supported reducing the number of new immigrants coming into Canada.
Yeah.
Slightly different question. And
Well,
that's
what's
increased
interesting though is that, like,
20%, 20% increase in the negative.
a few
So
years ago, saying that we have too many immigrants, you were labeled a
couldn't
racist.
say it. Yeah, we would.
Yeah, you couldn't
You know,
say it.
we'd be
And
kicked off
now
the podcasting channels if we said that 2
exactly, but
years
now
ago.
people are looking at this issue in a practical way. I mean, I honestly believe that the majority of Canadians believe in multiculturalism. We value cultures, a multitude of cultures in this country. That's what makes Canada great, but at the same time, you also want a manageable immigration policy, and I
Right.
don't think we had that for a while.
Well, pig in the python problem, right?
Yeah,
You wait in the
exactly.
hospital for people are dying in emergency rooms because there's just not enough. Anyway,
I know, I know.
let's sticking with politics. You mentioned to me off mic that there was some changes in the La Belle Province, one of your most favored or respected ag ministers. Talk about what's going on.
Yeah, as of this week, he's gone. So Adrien Lamontagne was ag minister since 2018, so 7 years.
Been on the
Uh,
pod. He's been a guest on the pod.
he's been I guess on a pod as well a few years ago, and I actually do think he was probably the best ag minister we had in Canada. He was the dean of ag ministers,
Hmm.
and he championed the code of conduct, for example. Along with the Minister of Agriculture at the federal level with Marie-Claude Bibeau, and of course with Minister Champagne as well afterwards. But he wasn't just a minister of ag. He was really known to try to influence policy across the country. So he decided not to run again. There's an election coming up next year, and he decided not to run. So he's out of cabinet because there was a cabinet shuffle this week in Quebec. So I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Lambertin, for your service. You've been great for the province, and I do believe he's the best ag minister Quebec has had since Jean Garon. And Jean Garon was ag minister in the 70s, early 80s.
Well, I got to meet him. I was super impressive individual, and of course, I love the fact that he actually came on the podcast, which not a lot of people are
Well,
in
he
the
came from the
government.
grocery business,
Yeah,
and it
willing
showed.
to. Yeah, 100%,
Yeah,
100%. What a
yeah.
great guy, right time. Congratulations. I echo your best wishes, and I'm sure we haven't seen the last of him. Maybe in the private sector
Yep.
wherever he goes next. Now, the people coming and going, you again told me off, Mike, something about Cody Bryce. So what have we learned about, he's in the PMO now or something? What's going on?
Oh yeah, so it was announced this summer, and I don't think it
I didn't
attracted
see
a
it.
whole lot of attention
Yeah.
because he's now the Secretary of State to Agriculture in the Prime Minister's office.
What does that mean? What does he do for a living?
I think what it means is that he has more influence than the ag minister around ag policy, to be honest. I mean, Hugh McDonald is the Minister of Ag, but he's really seen as the Minister of PEI.
Yeah. Scene. When you say scene.
I know, but Cody Blois knows his stuff. Like he understands most of the files, including canola, even though he's from Nova Scotia. Like he was president, he was chair of the ag committee for many, many years. He was exposed to a lot of these issues. He understands them. So he was sent to China by the Prime Minister Carney, to join Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan.
Why aren't they talking about this? This is great news. Like
and the day they were leaving, China paused the investigation on dumping, which is good news. It's symbolic, but very good news. So, and frankly, you don't go to China just to show up and take pictures. Right. It's because you're going to be meeting some key folks.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to wind up, handcuffed to a radiator for a year. So you better have a good agenda when you're there. So, that's great. That's great news.
No, it is great news. And the other great news, of course, is that we have a sort of détente with India. So we have new appointments, diplomatic appointments on both sides of like in India and in Ottawa. So things are looking better for sure with India and China right now.
Report out of Western University I wanted to ask you about, and you may or may not have seen the report. I just saw it, that the canola industry is being overblown in terms of its contribution to the GDP. Now, this report is brought to you by the EV Manufacturers Association of Canada. I'm kidding there. Kidding. Now, the numbers been floating around, and I wanted to ask you about the numbers. The numbers floating around is a $43 billion contribution to GDP, but it's really a $15 billion segment. Any thoughts on the different numbers and overall the contribution of canola? And should we focus on it a lot because it's a big part of ag, but what do you think of the notion and the direction of the report?
Well, when you think of crushing, when you think of obviously production and everything else, it's a huge industry overall. And I mean, you can argue all day about numbers and how big the sector is, but it is canola. It's Canada oil. It's really probably one of the most Canadian commodities we have. It was invented right here, and canola is very much associated with Canada, and frankly, I mean, a lot of people. There are a lot of GMO advocates, and that are always out there trying to bash canola and trying to say it's poison and it's not good,
seed oil, all that nonsense.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at the literature, the scientific literature, there's basically no risk, and it's cheap, affordable, healthy vegetable oil. And I don't care what people think. That's what I think, because that's what the science is telling us. Okay, keep to the science. If you're doubtful about canola, look at the science. It's pretty clear. Okay, and Canada is associated with canola, and so I think it's important to actually safeguard. It's our Red Bull. I mean, Austria is very protective
Red Bull, and a lot of other great stuff, by the way. We love the Austrians.
Exactly. So we kind of have to, and we're not good at branding. We're not good at branding our commodities abroad, and so you kind of want to make sure that we do a good job with canola overall.
Are you? And then we'll last question. Then we'll get to our interview with Charlotte. Are you? I don't know if worried is the right question, or picking up on the vibes that farmers are going to go, okay, I'm not going to plant canola next year. Like it's too.
Oh, it is. It's happening already.
Really? Eh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's already being mentioned in the news. I saw a few articles in a Western Producer, for example, and of course, farmers are already thinking ahead. And if there's so much uncertainty, I mean, business hate uncertainty. Farmers despise uncertainty. And so right now they're talking, of course, they're harvesting right now. And thank you for the work you do, farmers out there, because they work their ass off. Bleep bleep.
100%.
Oh yeah. But once things calm down, they're gonna start thinking about next year. And I can tell you, because of what's happening with canola, they're gonna start looking at other crops for sure.
All right, well, let's leave it there for the first half of the show. Let's get to our great interview with Charlotte Langley and talk about her nice cans. And then, first of all, we're going to hear from our friends at Cattle. All right, couple of things to talk about. We're back. A great interview, and once again, for those who missed the first part of the show, you were on flight from a Tim Horton. So let's talk about Tim Hortons for a little bit. They've launched a protein enhanced coffee. Proteins are everywhere. I was just reading Chatelaine magazine. We tried the new Tim Hortons protein latte, tasty, affordable, and twice as much protein as a standard latte. I wasn't thinking about.
I didn't even know there was protein in a regular latte. For goodness sake!
What do you mean twice as much protein? There's protein in it. Yeah. Anyway, so there's a New York Times article about this. Suddenly, it's all about protein. What's going on? Is this the?
And Starbucks is a few days away from announcing the same thing. They're actually about to launch a new protein line.
So what's the hype here? Is it hype or reality? Like, is there any science behind this?
It's protein fortification. I mean, basically, I think what's going on. It's the same phenomena in the U.S. And I mean, when you look at meat counter economics, they're brutal. They're brutal. I mean, it's getting more expensive, and people are looking for a cheap protein fix. Now, I actually wrote a book, The Protein Revolution, in French 4 years ago, if you remember.
I do.
And I do talk about that. I mean, proteins represent about 40 to 45% of all the money we spend on food as consumers. So they do matter a lot. And if they become unaffordable, you're going to look for other solutions. So why not actually mix your coffee fix or your caffeine fix along with the amount of protein you need in order to actually go about your day? I mean,
I'd love to talk to you.
You actually find protein in coffee. You find protein in breakfast cereals now. In many different products, they actually are using protein fortification as a value add for consumers in many products.
Do we need this much protein? Like, what do the nutritionists say? Like, it's gone up and up and up and up. Am I over proteining?
Well, I mean, I actually did read comments from a few nutritionists, because I'm not a nutritionist myself, but my understanding is that there are different types of protein, and we're not sure if these proteins are of quality for you, first of all, and perhaps people may overdose on protein. Maybe that's, you don't need as much protein, but at the end of the day, it's actually, to me, it's a bit of a win for chains, because they're always looking for ways to provide value, add value to their drink, to
pumpkin spice latte. They're looking for the next pumpkin spice latte, right?
Exactly. And so I'm not sure that the protein play is actually the next pumpkin spice phenomena, because it's an incredible phenomena.
Yeah,
but sure. I mean, people will drink pumpkin not for the flavor, but for the scent, for nostalgia, for
the fall.
Else.
Welcome to the fall and all that.
It's very powerful, and of course, you want to hit the market in the fall to create new habits, because people are driving around to new places. They're going to college, universities, back
except
to
for
work.
Dal professors. Yeah, except for Dal professors. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's talk about food delivery apps. So more popular than ever. I wanted to ask you about some research. Bad for society, fuel for the loneliness epidemic, polarization of opinion, great for eating alone, and great for building a community of less than minimum wage workers. But is it good for restaurants, and what's going
on? Sorry.
How's that for an introduction?
Could you repeat the question, please? I'm not sure what topic you're tackling.
Food
here.
Delivery apps.
Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry. Could you repeat the question, please?
All right, let's talk about food delivery apps. Some new research. You were talking about that on social media. They're more popular than ever. You're telling us. I think, are they bad for society? They're certainly fuel for the loneliness epidemic. They help polarize opinion because you're not getting out and socializing, so you can eat your dinner while you're watching the platform's rage algorithm work its magic on you. We're creating a community of less than minimum wage workers, but all that aside, is it good for the restaurants, and are people liking it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, I don't know if you use these apps
I do not.
yourself.
I do not.
I got to tell you.
But I'm not a big fast food to be, I don't go out for fast food anyway. I make almost all my food anyway, or I eat at a restaurant when I do. So
before
to be
COVID in
fair,
2020, 1 in 5 Canadians actually were using these food delivery apps on a regular basis. Now it's 1 in 4, 1 out of 4. And based on our data, we actually think it could actually reach 1 in 3 within the next 5 years.
What's driving it? Why are people using it?
Convenience, basically. It's so easy. I mean, you can actually order your favorite meal from your favorite restaurant in 15 seconds, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fast. But my concern is that, I mean, what about food literacy? What about, I mean, this is your new kitchen? Is that how it works? And right now, who is using these apps? Youth, younger generation.
Sometimes we have a parade of all kinds of cast of characters in the driveway dropping off a bag of whatever for the kids.
The usage rate for Gen Zs is 38%. For millennials, it's 32%. But for boomers, it's 12%. So that's why, like in the Atlantic, for example, it's much lower because you have an older population. But food inflation is also an issue in the Atlantic. But the king province is Alberta. Followed by BC and Ontario. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it has a lot to do with food affordability. People are out and about working hard. They just can't see why they should be spending time in the kitchen. And to me, it's symptomatic to a much broader problem. I mean, if you're not spending time in a kitchen, or if you don't want to spend time in a kitchen, you may actually become less food literate, really. And we all know what's going on with DoorDash. It's being sued by the Competition Bureau right now. It was announced this summer. We were off as a podcast, but that's something that actually came up. I'm not sure, Michael, if people understand how much more it costs to feed yourself using these apps. I mean, we're talking 15, sometimes 20% more just to order whatever you need. So it's pretty expensive.
So, decrease in food literacy, it seems like a decrease in economic literacy, because the cheapest way to go. But, if you don't have a car, I guess you can I hear from retailers that, a lot of retailers now are offering DoorDash to your door 1 hour. And what retailers are actually surprised.
You know what the paradox is here? You got youth using these apps, paying way more for food while accusing Loblaw of gouging.
Listen, yeah, it's crazy. But I think
I had to say it. I mean, so they're probably the same people. And so it just, I mean, seriously, if you want to pay more, it's your business, but do realize that sometimes
but if you broaden the lens, Sylvain, but if you broaden the lens and say, I'm not going to have a car, and so I'm not going to go get the fast food, and I'm not going to pay insurance, I'm not going to do all that stuff. Maybe I can't even afford a car. I'll pay a little bit extra per unit and still be way ahead. So, there's some rationale to it, right? If you think
some rationale, of course, youth. If you think of youth, they may actually have 2 jobs, maybe. So between jobs, they're ordering food because they don't have time to cook, and
God forbid they interact with each other and build social skills. God forbid.
So why go to the grocery store, buy more than what you need, waste half of it, a third of it, maybe, cook, spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
And as much as I'm a fan of technology at restaurants and quick serve instead of temporary foreign workers or being too reliant on them, you go to a fast food place, you interact with a kiosk, and then somebody hands you your food. There's no social interaction at all. You might as well sit at home. I guess.
I know.
As well sit at home. But maybe you'll meet your significant other at the next kiosk, and you're not doing that if you're sitting at home on
Exactly.
Facebook watching whatever you're doing or whatever the kids do, TikTok, or, I suppose, Facebook.
And I'm
Who's
sure
watching
that
TikTok?
people listening in with kids, teenagers, or young adults, I suspect they can relate to the data that we collected. A lot of young adults are using food apps, food delivery apps for sure. Meal kits. I mean, we talked about meal kits last week, and meal
Different
kits,
thing. Different.
yeah, they're not popular because it's really it's more
It's
work,
premium,
right?
and it's truly a premium service, and you can see it, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
work, and
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah. So,
Let's finish off with a couple of things. Prices at Farmgate for this year. You saying it's good to be a livestock producer? We were talking
oh
about the
my
cost of
goodness.
proteins. What's going on?
Oh my God. If you look at the data that was released this week by StatsCan, and this is, of course, a report that nobody reads except me. But I have to tell you, it's good to be a livestock producer. And frankly, it's not like that every year. I mean, if you're into cattle, hogs, poultry as well, prices are higher, much higher. Because a lot of people say, well, your product at the grocery store is way more, but are farmers really getting more? Well, the
Mm,
answer is yes for some. So if in livestock, clearly, if you're producing beef, you're making way more money this year.
mm,
Hogs as well, pork, of course, and chicken. But for everything else, it's mixed. If you're in grains, for example, canola, wheat,
sure, sure.
oil seeds, not great. Eggs. I mean, a lot of people are, saying, "Oh my God, supply management farmers
Mm,
are making
mm,
so much money this year." Not so much. I mean, when you look at eggs in particular, with the exception of chicken, for example, of course, if you look at eggs and dairy, I mean, prices are slightly higher, maybe 1%,
mm.
0.5 to 1%. So, but yeah, so it's a mixed bag this year. So a lot of farmers are making money, but in grains and dairy and eggs, it's not a great year.
Now we know the beef and cattle industry takes years to kind of go from when you start to when you're on the shelf. So, do you see the prices coming down at the grocers because there'll be more people getting into the cattle business and there'll be more supply?
No, I mean that's I mean the drought that affected everybody about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we were expecting cattle producers to reinvest in their herds at least a year ago. It never happened.
Hmm.
It never happened. So we're still waiting, and we're still not seeing an increase in inventories at all on both sides of the border. And most experts believe, and I'm one of them, believe that we're not expecting prices to normalize before at least mid 2026.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I guess you're starting to work on your candidate's price food price
Yep.
report, right?
Absolutely. So we're starting to, get some data, and we're going to work on our models, and yeah, it should be
Very
should be
exciting.
ended number 16 this year.
Sweet 16 coming out in December, right? That'll be early
That's
December.
right.
Very good.
Exactly. December
Last
4th.
December 4th to be very precise. So last thing, Cracker Barrel. So the everybody from the person in the neighborhood to the White House had some impact or input on their logo. Now they're announced they're stopping renovation. So they'd renovated a couple of Cracker Barrel trying to make them more relevant, but now they're saying, nobody likes what we're doing. Like nobody likes anything that we just did. So we're going to
Yeah.
start all over again. Have you ever been to a Cracker Barrel?
Yep. Actually, when I was in Florida, when I was teaching at the University of South Florida a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we actually, I mean, it's a great place to have breakfast with the family for sure. And there's a nice shop you can buy different things too.
Mm-hmm.
They do a pretty good job with service, and it was funny because they do focus on service. They they took our order, and it took 5 to 7 minutes, and the waitress in the meantime came back to us and apologized because it
For the
was
wait.
taking too long.
5 to 7 minutes.
And she gave us cornbread, hot cornbread, and it was amazing.
All right. All right.
Amazing.
And
Yeah.
did you find it like out of touch with? Was it full when you were there? Like, do you
It was
think?
full.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was packed. Yeah.
Their numbers haven't been great, and everybody's looked for growth, of course. So, well, we'll see. We'll keep our eye on.
Well, I mean, every brand needs renewal. I mean, once in a while, that brand, needs a refresh. I mean, that brand needs a refresh. I think everyone agrees. I suspect that they just didn't like the refresh, the outcome.
Well, that's a whole other notion. But anyway,
Yep.
we wish them all the best. So, all right, that's a wrap for this episode. I'm Michael LeBlanc, media entrepreneur, keynote speaker, customer consumer advisor, and you are?
I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.